Good evening. Thank you for your patience. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Monday, October 17th, 2022. Get started now at 6:34. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have a roll call and certification of quorum. We have 5 of us here this evening. So we do have a quorum. Absent currently are Commissioner Earls and Commissioner McCatherine. And now we're to the introduction of agenda and format of the hearing. Mr. Griggs.
Thank you, Chair. So for each item tonight, we'll have a call to order followed by a staff report. Afterwards, the applicant will provide their presentation. Then we'll have public comment in either support or opposition. Please state your name and address for the record. Be brief and to the point within a 3-minute time frame. And all comments shall be about the project, no personal attacks. Following that, we'll have commission and staff discussion, and then the commission will vote to recommend approval as presented, approval with conditions, denial of the request, or to table the item. Items that are discussed for the zone changes and conditional use permits will go to the November 7th meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Following into that, we've got a few items on new business. We'll have a variance, and then if that variance is approved, it'll flow into a replat of that same property. Then for the third item, we'll have a replat within the Lower Kirby area. And then we'll have 2 zone changes and a conditional use permit, one of which is near the intersection of Orange Street and Hatfield. The other zone change is for property on Magnolia Parkway. And then the conditional use permit is for a health club gym there at 5060, 5070 Broadway Street. That's back to you for the consent agenda.
All righty, sir. Thank you. Consent agenda. All the items listed in the consent agenda are considered to be routine and require little or no deliberation. These items will be enacted, approved by one motion unless the commissioner requests separate action on any item, in which an event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered for separate action. Approval of the consent agenda enacts the items of legislation. Anyone have anything they'd like to remove from the consent agenda? All right. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Commissioner Fuertes, motion to approve.
Commissioner Henrik, second.
All right. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. All right, on to new business. First item on the agenda is consideration and possible action of VARP 22-11, variance to allow the platting of an irregular shaped lot and a lot that is less than the minimum lot size requirements in the GB district. I'm sorry, I turned over the right page. Public hearing, a request by Adaris Soccaras of Civil-Surv Land Surveying, the applicant on behalf of Fite Interests Ltd, owner, for the approval of a variance permitted in section 2.6.1 B1 of the Unified Development Code, ordinance number 2000-T, from the section 2.4.4.5 C1 to allow the creation of a lot that does not meet the minimum, I believe that's lot width, lot depth, and lot area requirements in the general business or GB district, and from 3.2.14.2 to allow the creation of a regular shaped lot described, general location, southeast corner of Cullen Parkway and Old Chocolate Bayou. Staff report. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Do we have a motion for approval?
Commissioner Fuertes, motion to approve.
A second.
Commissioner Isenberg, second.
All right. Staff.
Thank you, Chair. So as mentioned, this is a variance to subdivide a piece of property. One of the lots is an irregular shape, and the other lot has issues with the minimum lot depth, minimum lot width, and minimum lot area as presented. That second lot is just above 4,000 square feet, as indicated on the screen. And the intended use for the two properties are for the the telecommunications tower and to develop an office in the future. So this slide shows the zoning and aerial map of the property. You can see that it is all zone general business, and there is just a little bit of neighborhood services that is across Cullen Parkway. All of this property is located within the retail offices and services district. And this is the proposed plat. So as you can see, there are two proposed lots, the first of which is an irregular shape. This is generally matching the shape of the previous existing lot, with exception of the carve-out of Lot 2, which is roughly 4,670 square feet. So this is the criteria for approval for a Planning and Zoning Commission variance. As you can see, it meets some but not all of the criteria. Number 3, it fails that criteria as the two uses can coexist on the lot together. So it is not necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of the petitioner. And then number 5 deals with granting the variance application will not have the effect of preventing the orderly use and enjoyment of other land within the area in accordance with the provisions of this code or adversely affect the rights of owners or residents of surrounding property. This basically deals with the fact that the creation of that lot for the currently existing tower, if that tower were to be removed and a new use were to be brought into that site, that lot would have significant struggles becoming developed. So by creating the lot, you are therefore allowing further development of the property at some point in the future. Number 6, the hardship suffered by the petitioner is not caused wholly or in substantial part by the petitioner. So staff recognizes that the shape of the lot was caused by the city with the acquisition of right-of-way for Cullen Parkway, which is why we are in support of the unique shape of that property. But on Lot 2, we're not in support of reducing the lot minimum depth, lot width, and lot area in order to create that second lot. With that, we'll pass back to you, Chair.
All righty, thank you, sir. We have the time for the applicant's presentation. Is the applicant here? Doesn't.
We have been working with planning because we have been approached by a major cell tower company to purchase the tower. And in doing so, carving a piece of the property to convey with the actual structure is the desire of the purchaser. So you can't convey by meets and bounds, which is why we're here carving out the smallest area possible to then allow for property to convey with the actual tower structure. So you see it's pulled as far to Old Chocolate as possible. And with the development of the remainder property, that area would most likely be vacant anyway. It wouldn't be improved up to that part. So this is really a function of the conveyance process as opposed to any strategic development, future development of the residual property. Most of that would probably come, I guess it would be south of that area and would probably come off of Cullen Parkway, more towards the adjoining property that we own. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any persons wishing to speak for or against this item? Going once, going twice, seeing none, hearing none. All right. Staff and commission applicant discussion. Does anybody, commissioners, have any further questions or comments?
Thank you, Chair. I guess I just have to say right out, I don't get it. I guess I'm not understanding. Lot 2 is the one with the cell tower on it currently, correct? Lot 1 is the city staff report was okay with Lot 1, but not with Lot 2.
Correct.
Because Lot 2 is too small for a GB designation or separation thereof?
Correct. So the minimum lot areas for a general business zoning district property would be 150 foot across. The application shows 106.85 foot across. The lot depth would meet 125 foot. What they're proposing is 55 foot in depth. And then the minimum lot area is 22,500 square feet. And what's proposed is 4,671. So these are all significant, over 50% reductions from what is within the general business zoning district.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
I shouldn't say all of them are, because the minimum lot width is 160
Six
or
versus
106
150.
foot, but
2/3. I guess if the applicant is trying then to cut this, for lack of better terms, cut this little portion out to then utilize the other parcel or the rest of the parcel, Lot 1, to perhaps develop it. I guess I'm struggling here, and I know the city has the rules. I know that we have our rules and we want to follow them. But at the same time, I pass by here every day, and if that land sits vacant, Lot 1 sits vacant from here to eternity, that does us no good either. I understood where it's written Lot 1, not where the arrow is. I guess the verbiage Lot 1, and then the parcel to the north, that's going to be, they just came in, correct? That's going to be a townhome development or proposed townhome development?
that is the current proposal.
Okay. So then we have some land fronting Cullen in front of those that I understood was going to be, or they would like to develop it for an office use.
Correct. I think the hard corner is the piece of property. And while there is zoning to both of those adjacent tracts of land, the zoning and uses of those parcels shouldn't necessarily determine what happens with this parcel.
Correct. I just wanted to make sure I had it in my head that this is the same corner, this is the same area. I do pass it every day. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't messed up here. I can't see, number one, I'm blind, but number two, it's a little fuzzy. There's multiple dotted lines south of that circle, or dashed lines. I'm assuming those are easements. Which one is the property line?
So the property line is bounded by Serenity Court.
Okay, the dark line there?
Okay, yeah. So where Muhammad is pointing,
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
It does tail up.
correct. So that's
Got it.
the,
Thank you for the clarification. I guess I'm just struggling here. This seems like a, seems doable. I want to help, but at the same time, I'm hearing the city, from the staff report stating correctly that this parcel, the lot number 2, just simply does not meet the criteria for a GB-sized lot. I'm still struggling.
Could I guess could the lot 2 be, reproposed at some point to adhere to GB by obviously taking more of lot 1?
that is one option, is to make a conforming lot out of lot 2. And then you would only be dealing with, you deal with a much smaller developable area of lot 1.
Understood. Okay. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Did I understand the applicant to say that they had a buyer for the lot where the cell tower was located at now?
I think I'll let the applicant speak on that.
Yes, we do, which is why we're doing this carve out.
Okay, so what's your cell? And it's the owner of the cell tower, correct?
Yes.
I'm confused because if they're willing to buy this tower, and their business is a tower, any future in that piece of property would be, they basically would be taking it on to where they knew if they did anything other than a tower, it'd be a useless piece of property to them. Is that correct?
So I understand what I understand the case that you're making. We cannot control by platting the property to a specific use. So currently, any use that is allowed within the general business district could make an application, irregardless of what is developed on the site, to put a new use on that property. If the cell tower is removed, then a new use comes in. That new use right to ask the Zoning Board of Adjustments for variances within the zoning district to allow the development of that property. This property, as it stands, would be extraordinarily difficult to make building, parking, landscaping, and open space and dumpster screening all work on that property.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. It's just that I'm like the rest of the commission. I'm really struggling with it, but just strictly because it sounds like to me they're selling the area, the footprint. They've already got it sold or will have it sold after they get it divided out for a specific use. A person buying that property knows that it's for a specific use. But I understand what you're saying also.
May I say one other thing?
Yes, ma'am.
I will not be able to develop the residual property if that carve out is if any bigger. We pushed them to take this area because we wanted to be able to have the residual as a piece to develop for a little office building of sort. So
Okay.
if that's pertinent to your decision, I want you to know that.
Okay. And what is their process? I mean, do we have to vote on it first before, I mean, going before the variance? Do they go before the variance board to get a variance on it, or?
So there's two different variances that I've discussed in the staff presentation. The first is the variance that y'all are voting on tonight, which is the variance that is entrusted to the Planning and Zoning Commission to discuss lot width, lot depth, and lot area, and the irregular lot shape size, irregular lot shape. The second variance is what the Zoning Board of Adjustments deals with, which are site development standards.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So from the legal perspective, you have to ignore the fact that there's a cell tower there because that is a specific use. You have to look at all the potential uses in that zoning district category. And the question is, if you create that small lot, what other uses in the GB district could fit on that parcel? You know, it may be in 7 years when we have 7G instead of 5G that cell tower might not fit or might not be as necessary as it is today. It might be because there's different technology out, you know, instead of using cell towers of that nature, there's a different kind. We don't pretend to know what the future holds. You have to look at what's there now. And just as when it's a zoning issue, you have to look at the dirt. Here you have to look at the zoning district standards. What uses could be allowed at that zoning district standards? And the concern that staff has is the amount of, essentially, if you agree to this today, if that cell tower were to go away, if there were any other use, have you bound future ZBAs? Have you bound future P&Zs to allow all the uses in a GB district on that small parcel? It doesn't give you the answer that you want, because I think everybody can see the cell tower. You can't imagine that lot being anything other than the cell tower, because that's what's there now.
But if we don't act on it, are we rendering the entire property use, I mean, to be a cell tower site?
While I heard Ms. Evans speak as to what she can and can't do with that, it's currently in that configuration. And she was able to put a cell tower on that site as it is, knowing that that's what the district standards were. That's how the property was owned, and that was the choice that she made, to have a cell tower there. There's property that is immediately east of that theoretically could purchase this portion and use it for portions of their development. Whether they'll do that or not, I don't know. I can't dictate those things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think my issue is that the variances are just too great, and we would be doing them for one single use, which would be for that tower. And I do understand the arguments that have been made, but once that variance is done, that's it. It's held to those standards. So I would not be willing to vote for variances that are this great for one particular use that would be for a tower. Thank you.
I think that this property would be, once it's subdivided, it would be extremely difficult to develop it and meet detention requirements in the future for anything else other than what it is now, which is a cell tower. I'd even have concerns about how they'd make it work with all the setbacks and detention requirements, since they've also increased. I don't even know how they would develop the property to the south of it, because it's already a little too small. So I think the best use she's going to get out of this land is the tower. And yes, we're not voting on that, but if we separate this land, it's as is. I don't see how it would be developed or could be developed as anything else commercial whatsoever in the future. probably have to buy it back if they want to develop the land to the south, but I'm sure maybe I'd hope they've looked at that. So I'm not opposed to being separated at this point in time. I just think that either one is very difficult to develop with the setbacks and the rules and the parking regulations. It's going to be tough regardless. So I'm in favor of the separation right now, just because it's already a tower there, and they might as well have their own land, and I don't see how it could be developed in anything else in the future, regardless. So that's my take.
I struggle with this as well. You know, the variance is significant based upon the proposal, and it could possibly adhere to the general descriptions and allowable uses based upon its size, and by unfortunately cannibalizing some possible land from Lot 1. That may cause less opportunity to develop a significant portion of Lot 1, but I mean, it is an odd piece of land to begin with. We're trying to square peg around this whole thing. So that's just my thoughts on it. So, any other further discussion? All right, let's go ahead and call for a vote then. With a show of hands, all in favor of the proposal as presented, please raise your right hand. I see 2. All opposed? Motion fails 2-3. Next item is consideration possible action Plat 22-92 replat of the Tower Reserve at Old Chocolate Bayou. A request by Adaris Soccaras of Civil-Surv Land Surveying, the applicant on behalf of Fite Interests Ltd, owner, for approval of the replat of the Tower Reserve at Old Chocolate Bayou, formerly Fite at Cullen Parkway, creating 2 lots on .7928 acres of land located at the corner of Old Chocolate Bayou and Cullen Parkway, to wit, general location, southeast corner of Cullen Parkway and Old Chocolate Bayou. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll move.
Go ahead. I'll second.
All right. First and second. Staff report.
So since the P&Z voted against the previous variance, this plat is directly tied to and would have required approval of the previous variance in order to be voted for approval.
I'd phrase it a little bit differently and just say that the proposed lots 1 and 2 do not meet the zoning district requirements. Therefore, in regards to having an irregularly shaped lot, and lot 2 fails to meet the lot width, lot depth, and lot overall area requirements. Therefore, staff recommends denial of this plat.
All right. Do we need any further discussion from commissioners? We do actually need to go with the applicant.
I was going to say it's listed as a public hearing, and we said for this issue.
Yeah. So if at this time the applicant would like to speak on this particular item. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. In addition to that, do we have any persons wishing to speak for or against? All right. Hearing none, seeing none. Back to staff, commission, and applicant discussion. Commissioners, do y'all have anything else? Nope. Staff? Any
The only thing
additions?
I'd add is that there is an existing plat, so it's not like the property is getting unplatted by this action.
Sure. This action, as proposed, is not allowable. All right. Do we vote on it since it's not?
Yes, sir. There's a motion to approve on the floor. Rather than putting it in the form of a denial or asking for an amended motion, I would just do a vote on the motion to approve, because you have to, the law says you have to take action within a certain time period of time. So the vote on the motion to approve, if it results in a 0-5 vote, will serve as the denial.
Okay. All right. Do I have, by a show of hands, anyone approve as presented item number 2? Any opposed? Motion fails 0-5. All right, item number 3, new business consideration possible action plat 22-93 replat of urban spectrum. It's a public hearing request by Amber Whiting of Windrose Land Services, the applicant on behalf of Lower Kirby Development LLC, owner, for approval of the replat of urban spectrum replat number 1, creating one lot on 11.9315 acres of land located north of Spectrum Boulevard. General location to be between North Spectrum Boulevard and South Spectrum Boulevard. Do I have a motion for approval?
Commissioner Hendricks. So move.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Staff report.
With that, thank you. Let me introduce Mohammed Brima to present the staff report for this replat. Mohammed, take it away.
Thank you, Martin. Good evening. So the purpose of this replat is to combine an existing platted lot with 32.5 wide strip of land along the southern boundary of this property into a single lot. So it'll be to create a single lot of 11.93 acres. The property is located within the LNR Creek Spectrum Plan Development, and conformance table, the proposed replat meets all of the criteria for the conformity table. This is the zoning map, and it shows the property located within, actually this is the future land use plan, shows the property located within the Lower Kirby Urban Center. This is the zoning map, and the property is located within the LNR PUD plan unit development. And this is the previous plat of the existing lot. And this next slide is the proposed plat, which shows the combination of the existing lot that we saw in the previous slide with a strip of land that was owned by the Lower Kirby District, combining into a single lot. These are the approval criteria for replat. The proposed replat meets all the criteria of approval, and based on that, staff recommends approval. Thank you.
All right. Do we have the applicant here for presentation? All right. If you just do us a favor and state your name and address.
Amber Whiting with Windrose Land Services. I don't actually have anything to say, but I wanted to let y'all know that I was here.
That's great.
If you have any questions, let me know.
Sure will. Thank you. In addition to that, do we have any persons wishing to speak for or against this item? All right. Hearing none, seeing none. Back to staff and commission questions and discussion. Want to have any? See lots of no's, shaking heads, no's. All right. Staff, anything else you'd like to add? Good. All right. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. All right. Before we get started on the next, I just want to remind you that if you would like to speak on these items, we do have the green comment papers in the back, I believe, and you'll fill those out. You will have, as a reminder stated earlier, you will have, when you speak, you will have 3 minutes just to kind of, so be as concise as possible. We're moving on to item 4, consideration and possible action, zone change application, zone 22-25. public hearing, a request by Xavier Esqueno, applicant on behalf of Elizabeth Gillis, owner, for approval of a zone change from single-family residential 2 R2 district to single-family residential 3 R3 district on 3 tracts of land totaling approximately 12.3429 acres of land. General location to be south of West Orange Street and east of Hatfield Road. Do I have a motion to approve the item?
So moved.
First? For approval?
Second for approval.
All right, I have a first and a second. All right, staff report.
Thank you, Chair. Let me introduce Samin Bazargan to present the staff report. Samin, take it away.
Thank you, Martin. Good evening, Planning and Zoning Commission members. So the first zone case is for 3 tracts of land for R2 to R3 zone district. They're located along south of West Orange and east of Hatfield Road. The future land use map is medium density residential. So far, staff has received 2 letters against the proposed zone change. Next slide shows the zoning and aerial map of the proposed property, and it shows that the zoning is R2 along the property. Next slide is, it shows the future land use map. As you can see, the future land use designation for this property is medium density residential, which R3 is consistent with medium residential. The third slide shows that the property is adjacent to a vacant lot and also single-family homes. The subject properties were annexed into the city in 1983 and has been vacant since then. 2 of the subject tracts with frontage along Orange Street have been previously platted, but have never been developed. Conformity table, the proposed zone change is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future land use plan. Orange Street is designated as a major collector with sufficient width, and Hatfield is a major collector planned to be widened. The subject land is currently undeveloped. However, any future development shall conform to the requirements of R3 district. The subject property has access to water and sewer line. As you can see, the proposed zone change meets all the criteria. Thank you. And that's why the staff recommends approval of the proposed zone change from R2 to R3. And that completes the staff report.
Thank you very much. Applicant presentation. Is the applicant here? All right, if you just remind us and state your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Xavier Esqueno. Address is 11622 Montmartre Boulevard in Houston. I'm making myself available for any questions. I think that our project will improve the area. We'll have Hatfield continuing to develop into a residential, nice zone. And also finally, after a couple of attempts of platting this and making it a development, a residential development now is going to happen with your approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We do have some folks here that wish to speak on the item. I'm just going to read the names as presented to me on the green papers here. First one I have here is Aurelio and Elizabeth Barron. You'd like to, you'll just state your name and your address as well for the record, even though we have one of these just in case. does state that you're the owner of the property.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Aurelio Barrón y pues no estoy de acuerdo en los cambios que quieren hacer. La dirección es 2205 Hatfield. Si van a hacer cambios, pues me gustaría que hagan los cambios en lotes más grandes, no más chicos, porque más chicos es más gente junta, pues es más problema para la escuela, para el tráfico, de ruidos. O yo agarré esa propiedad porque en el futuro voy a hacer una casa ahí, pero quiero un espacio abierto y más tranquilo. Pero de la manera que quieren hacer los cambios, pues no estoy de acuerdo.
My name is Laura Jimenez, and I'll just kind of summarize what he said. He is the owner, Aurelio Barron, and he purchased this property and with the intent to create a single-family home within a subdivision that was developed, Crawford subdivision. And so his intent is to build a single-family home and is not in agreement with this. He opposes it because it will create more traffic in our subdivision, more noise in the subdivision as well.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Can I be next since I'm already here?
Yes, I was going to say, I think you're the next. Laura Jimenez.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Laura Jimenez, and I am the owner of 2207 Hatfield Road. I am immediately adjacent to the property that's being requested for replat. As you can see, my property is all along the proposed, and I oppose this. We purchased this property 16 years ago as part of Crawford subdivision. So you're not only asking for a replat, you're asking for something that was already developed. Crawford subdivision have single family homes. You can see the property line there. You can actually see the house if you went a couple of sites back. So this is something that we've raised our family here. It took us 11 months to build this home, and now you want to come and put a subdivision adjacent to it. Crawford subdivision has 2 lots there, and it's part of Crawford subdivision for single family homes. So I oppose. Again, it will create a nuisance to us because now we have all these properties against our property. The noise that it's going to cause, the safety, also consideration, the traffic, how it's going to affect our schools. My daughters had already had to be rezoned because of the schools were overcrowded for all these new communities within the city of Pearland. And so, that's really all I have to say is it's not right for you to come and want to build a development against something that initially we bought from the original owner, Charles Crawford. If you're familiar with the city of Pearland, you know who that is. So these are very old developments, and we want to keep them that way. We want to keep the integrity of our Crawford subdivision, which these 2 lots are part of that, and I have the documentation that states it's part of Crawford subdivision.
Okay.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, Lynn Guggenheim. If you'll just state your name and address for us, please.
My name is Lynn Guggenheim. I live at 2255 Hatfield. My husband and I moved here to Pearland 25 years ago to get out of Houston, to have some peace and quiet. And in the 25 years I've been here in Pearland, this city has turned into anything but peace and quiet. Every inch of green space is being developed. Hatfield is a royal pain. It is a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit that people don't abide by. And all I need is more traffic, and I do not want a residential area butted up against my property that looks like the one that is currently being developed across the street from us. I do not agree with this. And I'm just have this feeling that the people who want to make a buck off this project seem to take precedent over the people who want their peace and quiet and who's been here for quite a long time. So I don't know how this is all going to boil down. All I know is my husband and I are opposed to it, and this will greatly impact my property because it's going to be right up against it. So I don't know. I don't want more traffic on Hatfield. Nobody wants to do anything about Hatfield and the traffic. The neighborhood across the street is going to turn into the same kind of neighborhood that's going to be my neighbor. I don't want that happening. So that's pretty much everything in a nutshell right there.
Thank you, Ms. Guggenheim. Last speaker's card that I have here is for Leon Garner. Mr. Garner, if you'd please state your name and your address for the records. Thank you.
My name is Leon Garner. I live at 6602 West Orange Street. I've owned that property for 86 years. Well, my dad has. You were born there? Yeah, I was born on that property. First, one of my questions, I want to know what kind of price are these homes going to be listed as? And also, what is the square footage of the houses that they're wanting to build? I see they've got 2 openings to that land, and I would like to know why we need 2 openings to that little bit of property there. Yeah, the one road that comes out on Orange is a little narrow, and we don't need any more traffic on Orange Street, believe me.
And it's right in the subdivision. There's homes right there.
Yeah, there's homes on both sides of it.
That road.
And that's about it.
Mr. Garner, sir, would you do me a small favor and identify the lady to your left?
I'm sorry.
That's my wife, Sally Garner.
Thank you. We just wanted to make sure that we track your comments with the name and the address. I appreciate that.
Does that conclude your?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Garner. Ms. Garner, we appreciate your time. Yes, thank you. All right. Anyone else here wishing to speak for or against? Okay.
Hi. My name is Alejandro Esquino. I also represent the applicant. I wanted to answer some of the questions that were asked and sort of talk through some of the comments. The houses are about 3,500 square.
Excuse me, Chair. Is he speaking on behalf of the applicant and answering questions? That's probably best in the next item if y'all want to carry those forward. When we have applicant and P&Z and staff discussion.
Okay.
At the moment, we'd only be looking for additional public comments.
I got you.
Okay, I wasn't sure at which point to.
But we can have you stand up in just a minute if they want to ask those questions. We appreciate you being here, though.
All right. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against? All right. Hearing none, seeing none. We are at this point in time. We have staff, commission, and applicant discussion. Do we want to go to the applicants? You're welcome to speak now at this time. Yes, sir.
Sorry about that. So Alejandro Esquino, 11622 Mart Boulevard, Houston, Texas, 77082. For the price of the houses, around $400,000-$500,000. And for the size of the houses, around 3,500 square feet. We already have a buyer for the property at those lot sizes, which is why that's what we're looking for. The main question that I heard coming from the other applicant or the other comments was that they don't really want to see the area developed anymore. That's a question for the committee. As they said, the land hasn't been able to find development or use for 20, 30 years. If I do not think that it is in the best interest of the city of Pearland to leave that property undeveloped, to not gain that tax revenue, and to leave it empty. That said, I am very sympathetic to the people who wanted to live a quiet life, and as Houston expands, naturally that gets more and more complicated. Sorry, I'm not the best public speaker. But that's generally our position. They're high quality homes. They're not going to reduce the property value of what's around the area. And 60, the reason we're going for 60s is because really no buyer is willing to accept anything smaller or rather anything larger than that. So it's not even really a question of whether we build at some point. It's just that every 7 houses will have 1 extra house versus only those 7 houses. Thank you.
Commissioners?
I'm sympathetic to the residents out there. I know that as a kid growing up off of Edgebrook, Pearland was always looked at, a sleepy little community, and I dove hunted out here where the academy was, and spent a lot of time down here and stuff with a lot of friends. But we gotta look at it from a realistic standpoint. Even though that I do sympathize with you, that property's going to be developed at some point in time. Now, living on it for 86 years, I can totally understand. Even the 16 years and 25 years, I understand. But it's going to be developed, and to me, I would rather have a quality product out there on that property to where it would enhance the value of your property, than at some point some other board come in here and give them something a lot less restrictive. A lot of these developers and these builders now are wanting 40-foot lots, and having a 60-foot lot on it, it allows them to build a 3,000, 3,500 square foot house is a nice home. They're not going to be building junk. So like I said, even though I am sympathetic to it, I've got to look at the reality that we just can't have just vacant land in Pearland anymore. We're too close to Houston. We're getting built out. It's just the nature of the beast. We're not that sleepy community anymore. So I would be for it.
I do want to thank the citizens for coming out and expressing your opinions. They're always appreciated, and we do take them to heart when we're making these decisions. I will say for myself, one of the reasons I moved to Pearland was because of the proximity to Houston. And so unfortunately, you are very close to Houston, and it makes it a selling point, and it makes people want to come to this area. So Pearland is experiencing growing pains, and we have limited real estate as there is. So when we have undeveloped property and you have people that are coming in and are going to build a good product and increase your property value, that's something worth taking into consideration. And I know that when you moved out here, that's not what you wanted, but the character of the city is changing. And so with that, unfortunately, is going to require some of the limited real estate that we currently have to be developed, and still continuing to grow the community, but making sure that we're putting good products in the community. So even though we're stretching it, maintaining the character. So, this is something that I would be in favor of, and I don't want you to think that your comments go unnoticed, but there is just very limited real estate, and eventually this property would be developed. Thank you.
Commissioners?
So the property is, future land use is already R3, correct? stated to be R3?
It's medium residential density.
No, it's the future land use. Did you all say that it was R3?
It's medium density, and the medium density is intended to accommodate R3.
Okay. So, in other words, it's going to end up being, no matter what, R3. No.
I would characterize that statement a little differently. The future land use is a guide within the comprehensive plan about future development potential, not necessarily a guarantee of zoning. In fact, state law requires that there be a statement that the future land use is not the zoning document.
Okay. Well,
It's currently zoned R2 though, which would allow what? Which width?
It'll be 70 or 7,000 square feet lots with 70
So
feet wide lots.
the R3, if they wanted to change it to R3, it would be lessening it from 70 to 60 feet.
okay.
So your point is still a valid point. It's going to develop, or it could develop right now without the zone changes into 70-foot wide lots.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. So in that case, I don't see a tremendous difference in the 10-foot as far as if they were to do 70-foot. I mean, I do appreciate the feedback, but if they're going to put in 70-foot lots versus 60-foot lots, it's still going to have the same impact. And that's already in their right to do that. So I would be for it in this case.
The development that is currently under construction or under development on the west side of Hatfield below, just south of the mobile home park, for lack of a better term, is that R3? Is it R2? It can't be R2. It's got to be R3, correct? Or R4?
It's zoned R2 on that side of the street.
That is also R2, and that's 70-foot lots?
Correct.
I believe that's a Guillen product. Okay. I think the comments here have the concerns of the citizens are valid. I think the comments from this board have been valid. I get torn. I was coming here ready to vote yes when I read everything. I listen to your comments and I take them to heart. And I think every board member here does as well. And I need to jump over real quick to answer, I believe your comment, sir, was the for lack of a better term, the little dog leg that's leading to Orange Street. Why is that there? This current city rules, if you have more than 29 units, I believe, you have to have a secondary egress point. They may not use it. They may just make that an emergency exit only. They could use it. I don't know that, but I would imagine if you have more than 29 homes or residences there, you're going to have a secondary point of egress. And so that's why that's there. It may be their main entrance. I don't know, but I'm just saying I think that's why there's going to be two. Back to the case at hand. I'd really like to see more, instead of the future land use plan, the current zoning in that area, to see what is R2, R3, or this or that. And I struggled with this one because I couldn't tell. Is everything there R2 and this is the only R3?
So everything that is currently on the screen that is yellow is in the R2 zoning district.
And if we panned out further to other areas, are we going to find R3?
I gave it a good college try here. keeping the,
Even a verbal's fine.
yeah, I don't see much R3 in the area.
I guess I'm afraid of spot zoning, but that's a legal issue that that perhaps Mr. Province could guide us on. Not to put you on the spot, sir.
No, sir, it's not putting me on the spot, but when you look at the definitions of spot zoning, I don't think that this would rise to that particular occasion. However, you're creating, I couldn't call it a donut hole, and the reason why I would say that is when you look at the property immediately to the west, although that is zoned R2, that's actually city-owned property. That's where that park is, and I don't believe that that could be used for anything other than a park. So that would be, immediately east of it, where all the wooded area is. And then you have the M1 that is north of what we're going to call the driveway there. So you're not going to be spot zoning, but you are creating a peninsula. I don't know, maybe not an island, but a peninsula there. I think the issue for you is whether or not you're okay with a reduction of 10 foot for the density. And that goes from, if I did my math correctly, 36 homes that they would be allowed by right with today's R2 zoning, up to 42 homes if you go with the R3 proposed zone change request. Certainly, Muhammad had done the same math and came to the same conclusion on it. Makes me feel better about that particular skill.
Sure. Sure. Surrounding cities, if we look at surrounding cities and what they allow, of course, Houston doesn't have zoning, so you could put 45s on there, 40 foots, whatever you decided, 30 foots. Alvin has a restriction of a minimum of 60 feet, average, not completely, but average in a community. This is not far off from other areas in our region. In fact, we've allowed other builders here recently 45, I believe, foot product in a senior community. There's been 50s and 55s as well. If you came to me earlier and said we want to put 50s in here, my answer would have been no, absolutely not. But I think it's a fair compromise. I think with today's financial dynamics, developers are having to. I'm glad you have an end user. I hope that contract is signed because there's a lot of home builders, as you know, if you're a developer, you know they're bailing. So I hope that's ironclad, and I wish the best for you. I'm close, but I'm gonna be a yes.
I'll probably be a little bit of the outlier on it. I like the 70 foot only because it keeps the, I don't know what the word is, flavor of the area, whatever it is. R2 cross streets R2. The difficult part of this equation is the citizens that came and spoke and are upset with the opportunity for a development here. The problem for them is that the development is coming, period. So we're down to nailing down, is it going to be 60 foot or is it going to be 70 foot? And that's really the only question, unfortunately, for the individuals that live adjacent to this property. So, it's unfortunate for them that, you continue to move away from the hustle and bustle to get to the small town. And for many, many years, that's what Pearland was. And it is no longer that in many parts of this town, and it will continue to change. Hopefully for the better, continue to be for the better. But the reason my thought on the 70 foot versus the 60 foot is it will add another layer of guarantee that the product will be a higher end product, because somebody who spends the money at a 70 foot lot for a 3,500 square foot house is now going to be in a higher price point to pay for the land and the house itself. So, 10 feet is negligible. It could be 5 feet on each side, and you would barely even notice. But to me, it adds another layer. So, if the proposal is for 60-foot lot to allow for an R2 to an R3 change, I would probably be opposed to the R2 to R3 so that would occur, because I don't want. I just think the 70-foot lot is doable, and I think that the math, 6 more units, 6 more houses, math-wise, is a chunk of change. But I would be I would like the 70-foot lots more than the 60. Any other discussion? Go ahead.
The applicant, can you go back to the podium? Now, I understand that you made the statement that you couldn't get any builders at 70 foot. Is that correct, or is this an ironclad deal to where it's got to be 60 or nothing?
It's got to be 60 or nothing. One of our primary buyers actually backed out because, like the committee mentioned, there are people that want nothing above 50s at this point. That's how demanding the builders are being about the product that they want. Getting the 60s for us was a large compromise with one of our regular buyers. And I could go and try and find another buyer for the property, but that would leave a big question mark up in the air on whether that land would get developed or not.
I sit here and listen to everything, and I'm flip-flopping around on it because I am trying to take into consideration the people that live out there. And as Lawrence had spoken about having kind of a donut in the middle of it, or a peninsula in the middle of it, if all the rest of it is out there, and from what I understand, they have development going over on the other side of the road of Hatfield. Is that right? There's development out there, so there are buyers out there that will go to a 70-foot lot.
May I comment?
Yes.
So Guillen's actually another one of the buyers that we work with. We were involved initially with the purchase of that land. It is very rare that they're able to do that. And even because of that, they've had problems where, I don't know if you've noticed, but nothing's moved on that property for an entire year since it's been purchased. Having something like 60-foot lots allows for the buyer to be able to make more profit off of their product, put a little bit more money down to get everything moving on the process. And basically it just affects the intricacies of the contract that you're able to make with them to get the project forward faster. I don't want to end up in the same position that the project across the street is in.
I understand your point, but I'm going back to the expectations of people when they buy a piece of property, even though it's been 16 years and things are changing. But I've sat here and thought about it, and I'm probably leaning more toward the 70-foot lots. But I appreciate y'all's input.
Thank you.
Commissioner, if I can add one quick comment. So this is a zone change request, and I've done some preliminary back-of-the-napkin math on the people who have spoken and coming up with the percentage for the supermajority vote. And this may get into the position where, irregardless of whether y'all pass or fail, it will require a supermajority vote due to the people who have shown up.
That's for when it goes to city council, though. So your vote, depending on how it goes, may require city council to have a supermajority vote. And then I had it as 4 adjoining property owners, and I didn't know if the 2 written comments were also adjoining property owners. But if it's at least 20% of the area out there, I forget the exact way that the code defines that, it could also trigger a supermajority vote for city council. But that's not to dictate your decision. That's to make sure that the public out here knows when it goes to city council, there may be 2 things that require it to be a supermajority vote by city council to have the zone change request approved.
So we have done the staff report, we've done the applicant presentation. So now a person's wishing to speak for or against the item.
We covered that, sir. We had 4 of them already do that. So at this point, unless there's additional comments
I was
from...
just making sure there weren't any.
Yeah.
Or
Oh.
I have. All right. Anyone else? Staff-wise, applicant-wise? Okay. All right. We're going to vote. We have a first and a second items on the table. All those in favor as proposed for zone change 22-25, please raise your right hand for it. Those opposed? Motion carries 3-2. All right. We're going to item 6, which is
Item 5.
Item 5. Consideration possible action zone change application zone 22-26. Public hearing request by Colin Davidson, Meta Planning and Design, LLC, applicant on behalf of Fairbanks Groups, LLC, owner, and Adam Omren, owner, for the approval of a zone change from residential estate RE district to single-family residential R3 district on 3 tracts of land totaling approximately 12.48 acres, to wit, general location north of Magnolia Parkway and west of Kirby Drive. Do I have a motion for approval?
Commissioner Fuertes, motion to approve.
A second.
Second.
All right, I have a first and a second. Staff report.
Thank you, Chair. Let me introduce Mohammed Brema to present the staff report. Mohammed, take it away.
Thank you, Martin. So zone change 22-26 is a request for approval of a zone change for 3 tracts of land totaling approximately 12.48 acres and from residential estate district to single family residential 3 or R3 district. Subject property is located at on the north side of Magnolia Parkway, about 800 feet from the intersection with Kirby Drive. Staff received 6 letters of opposition to this request, as well as a 1 phone call, also in opposition. No any comments in support. This is the zoning map, and again, the property is located within the residential estate district, and it is surrounded by plant unit development for the Southern Trails from the north and from the east side, and with the RE also located from the west side. And it's the Manville ETJ on the south side of Magnolia Parkway. This is the future land use plan, and the property is designated for low density residential, and that is intended to accommodate zoning districts of the RE and the R1 districts, and dwelling units in the size of 8,800 to 12,000 square feet. This is an aerial map showing just generally the property and the surrounding uses. As you can see, the Southern Trails subdivision is located on the north side as well as the east side. Also, they have the detention pond along a portion of the north side. You have a church on the west side, and again, Manville ETJ on the south side of Magnolia. This is just a view of the property from the Magnolia Parkway looking back into the property. The property has an existing house that's located towards the west side of these 12 acres, and a large portion of the property to the east is still undeveloped. This is the conformity table, just looking at the proposal from the different city plans, the comprehensive plan, thoroughfare plan, as well as the UDC and the utility plans. The property is consistent with all of this except the future land use designation for low density. And this is the approval criteria for zone changes from the Unified Development Code. This proposed R3 district is consistent with 3 of these criteria, except one, which is consistency with the future land use designation for low density. With that, as we have seen that this proposal is not consistent with the future land use designation. However, it's compatible with the Southern Trails subdivision that's located to the north and as well as to the east. And it doesn't really have huge impact on most of the development that's to the north and the other side. So because you have a church on one side and the Southern Trails, which is almost compatible. So with that, staff is recommending approval of this zone change to the R3 district. And that concludes the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Applicant presentation. If you'll just state your name, address.
Hello, my name is Colin Davidson from Meta Planning and Design. I think staff's report did a good job of kind of laying out our zone change request. I just want to reiterate that although the R3 district is not compatible or is not compatible with the future land use plan, the R3 district is similar. It is compatible to those uses to the north and to the east of the tract. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're at the point where we have some folks that want to speak on the item. I have, looks like 3 speakers cards. Just go in order here. Roland Falgust. Mr. Falgust, if you'll state your name and address, then you have 3 minutes.
My name is Roland Falgu. I live at 12208 Willowbrook Lane, Pearland 77584. I am president of the Southern Trails Homeowners Association, as well as president of MUD 34 District, which this plan doesn't fall into, but we are concerned about the primary concern we're opposed to is we're not too clear how they're going to handle the drainage. You have the retention pond that is there. It has just been recently developed into, it's going to be like a soccer field and whatnot, but it's still, we got approval from the drainage district and everything else that it will not impact the drainage that we've had there. They are widening County Road 59, which will increase runoff drainage. You put the subdivision in there, you're going to have runoff drainage, and it's going to go into the pond. And what we're concerned about is that that area floods quite dramatically, even though, and it's like they're going to be raising the land to build into it. And so we are concerned about the flood. We were very fortunate in Hurricane Harvey that water got up, like for myself, got up to beyond the sidewalk. But overall, the community did quite well with Harvey. But since then, we have had developments around us, and now you're going to have this here. So we are concerned about the runoff, the runoff, as well as we're not too sure who's doing the underground utilities and what is the drainage there. We just had a recent development on the east side of the subdivision. We had to allow the builders, because they had a contract in place way before we came along, to put piping and whatnot, and there's been a real dragging along kind of a thing to allow the things and all. So So that's the main things, the drainage, the runoff, have they addressed these issues and whatnot, and how will it impact the subdivision? And also would like to know, again, which sizes the houses going to be, what's the price point houses are going to be at, what's the square footage and whatnot. Our subdivision has grown quite a bit. The land values have increased substantially. We have walking trails, we have retention ponds and whatnot. It's a beautiful neighborhood, and we just want to be sure that it stays that way, what goes on around us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Next speaker is Christina Miller. If you'll just state your name and address. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Christina Miller. I live at 11814 Cascade Falls Lane. So I'm right on the corner of that plot, right where you can see that dry retention basin that breached its bounds during Harvey and flooded into that field that's trying to be developed behind us. That is my major concern. That area is very marsh-like, and it does provide a lot of drainage. What Roland said with the widening of County Road 59, which is necessary for the traffic that is currently behind us with the growing of pearland, that's also going to impact our drainage. Building on what Roland said in the past, we have 2 small young kids. What's going in behind us? We bought this lot 5 years ago, knowing that there was proper drainage, walking trails. Now this was always an unknown. And we just want more information as to what's going behind us. What the applicant provided was very generalized and said 23 homes, I believe. That seems like a lot for the property behind us with additional drainage. The valuations, property lines and easement. We have an easement behind our home, in addition to the road easements that weren't accounted for in the original application. Just curious to see how that shrinks the lot. And that's about it. Thank you so much for listening to our concerns.
Thank you. All right. Last speaker would be Michael Diaz.
Hello, evening. My name is Michael Diaz. I live at 3606 Trinity Rose Lane, Pearland, Texas. The property butts up right to my property. And the biggest concern is drainage. Like everybody has said, due to Harvey, we were a new subdivision, so we were able to hold up. But everything behind me was just filled. We're on higher elevation, they're on lower elevation. County Road 59 right now, it is terrible. A lot of construction going on through it, a lot of heavy trucks going through there. And with it widening might help, but with this being built, also the drainage is going to affect those roads and make it flood even more. Noise, criminal stuff going on around there. We included security cameras when I first moved there 6 years ago. We were having break-ins left and right. We don't know what kind of people are coming. We don't know if it's going to be a HOA property. If it's not HOA, how's it going to affect my privacy fence into everything since we're going to butt up? Are they going to put a concrete wall? To help, because once they develop, they're going to go higher than what we are. So when their drainage comes, it's going to go to the side into my property, back down into the road. So I don't know if that's totally true. Maybe the developers and everything have everything go for that, but also know our school districts are overpopulated. So we're going to add more people there. They built it schools, but they build them more down towards Lake Jackson area, and we're getting more schools, but how are we going to continue to put more people into our schools? That's another concern that I got. So that's pretty much all I have right now. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, one more thing.
Yes, sir.
I heard it was going to be 23 houses on a 5-acre thing, 6,000 square feet lots. Are they going to have their own retention pond? You know what I mean? And if so, how is it all going to fit into that little bit? I know when I spoke to the owner, Mr. Oran, myself, the white house to it, he's not trying to make that. He's not trying to break it. He's not trying to do anything with that. He just wants to develop that little red square that he has right there. Later on, future on, maybe go into it, but adding that little subdivision in between commercial and all that stuff, is it going to affect the value of our homes? Also with the smaller homes being built. So
Right.
that was another thing.
Thank you very much. All right, so is there anyone else that did not fill out a card that would like to speak for or against this item? Hold on just a second, we'll get. All right. So now we're at the part with staff. Oh, I'm sorry, you wanted to.
An additional person.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you'll just hand, when you're finished, if you'll hand your green form up to Ms. Shelby up here. Thank you.
Sir.
And state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Alejandro Sanchez. I live at 3608 Trinity Rose Lane here in Pearland, Texas. I'm just going to piggyback off everything else everyone's saying about the drainage. The neighborhood is going to be impacting me. One of the major questions I do have is that neighborhood going to have an HOA? Since we do have an HOA, our HOA does a good job in keeping up with our neighborhood, making sure everything's up to date. Houses are kept up to date too as well. So that's just kind of one of my biggest concerns I have. Is it just going to be small little houses, and are they going to be renting them out? Like, just develop them and just be like rental houses too. That's going to be another concern. So a lot of movement back there. So I think that's a big concern I have. That's pretty much it.
Okay, sir, thank you. And if you wouldn't mind, don't forget to turn, next, we'll come to staff, commission, and applicant discussion. If the applicant would like to speak at this time, it maybe can help answer some of the concerns and questions.
Yes. As for drainage, we're planning on having all drainage on site with our own detention. We will not be draining onto anyone else's property. That is not allowed, and drainage will have to be approved too at the time of platting. As for home size, we are the homes will roughly be around 3,000 square feet, and they will not. There's no plans for rental housing. These will be homeowners that will be buying these houses. Thank you.
All righty, thank you, commissioners.
So I just wanted to go to engineering so you could just confirm that they'll have to follow the subdivision regulations at 0.65 acre feet of detention, and I'm not sure if this is in the floodplain.
That is correct, and the lot is not in floodplain.
Okay, so, but they would, when they develop this, it'll be considered under subdivision regulation where they have to do the 0.65 for the entire tract.
That is correct, not impervious cover per house. They have to provide detention for the roadway, technically the whole site, whatever they develop.
Correct, the whole site.
Excluding that, I think it's a church, that's what I heard.
Right. So I just wanted to get that question answered for everybody who's concerned about drainage. It's actually illegal for the pond that is behind them to flow its water onto this tract. And the same goes for this tract. It's not legal for them to flow their water onto your land. And they will have to do detention to mitigate for that. And my assumption is they will probably raise the land just slightly, but they will have to show per engineering that they are meeting that criteria and that they cannot flow any water onto your land, because that wouldn't be allowed. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear to you guys how that policy would be enacted.
And if I may add, when we review the plan for this subdivision in future, technically we will treat it as this is a new section to the existing subdivision, like when two lots are abutting each other. So of course they have to raise the land, but ultimately the property, the elevation along the property line should match. We will not allow them to raise their land right along the fence line. So they should match the elevation with your property and drain toward front of the streets they're going to propose.
All right, anyone else, commissioners?
And this is for the applicant. If you could go to the podium, thank you. What is going to be the price point for these homes?
I don't have that information at this point.
That's something pretty important.
There'll be roughly 3,000 square feet homes.
And are you knowing what you want these homes to be made out of concerning materials? Just a little more information about the homes, because to the point, I know drainage has been a concern, but they also want to know what kind of product is going to be coming into the area. So as much detail as possible, we greatly appreciate.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Jennifer Curtis with Meta Planning and Design. I'm a senior planner. We don't have a materials selection at this time. I know that the owner of the property is working on some of the architectural designs, and they've looked at some floor plans, but haven't finalized that yet, because really the focus is, can they even get the zone change? You know, if the zone change can't happen, then they can't sell the homes that they're trying to sell. So they haven't gone that far into detail of the design yet. But just, I mean, given the market today and given how much a 3,000 square foot home sells for, I imagine that the price point is going to be comparable, if not higher, than what's currently existing in Southern Trails.
And Commissioner Boswell, if I may, I would just say that the building materials aren't something with a straight zoning like this. It's not something that the city can regulate, so they can tell you that it's going to be 100% brick, and that might set an expectation for the community, but the city cannot enforce that. So
Understood. And I guess I just kind of wanted to know the feel to give me an idea maybe of the price point, since they didn't have one in mind. Just trying to gather as much as I could to make
absolutely. You know, it helps you in your decision making, or at least it gives the public who are here in opposition and the ones who wrote in some idea, or maybe answers some of the questions that they have had. Completely understand that, but the decision for the zoning shouldn't be affected by the building material. And Chair, if I may, I'm sorry, Mr. Rowland, I forgot your last name. If you could come back up to the podium, I have something that's going to affect a legal issue, so I needed to get you to clarify for me, sir. If I heard you correctly, you are on the MUD board and you're also on the HOA board, is that correct?
That's correct.
And did the MUD or the HOA take official action and say, come out here and speak against this?
No.
Or is this you as a board member, but is this you individually?
This is me individually.
Okay, I appreciate that, because again, we're looking at the abutting property. There is property owned by the HOA that abuts this. There is property owned by the MUD that abuts this. The HOA and the MUD could also say we're opposed to it, but that's not what Mr. Rowland was saying.
I can speak on behalf of the HOA, but not the MUD. Because I've talked to other board members and I've told them I was coming here tonight, so I would have.
Sure. If either of those organizations that you're a member of, that you have some sort of official capacity with.
I'm the president of the HOA.
Sure. So if y'all take a vote and you want to send that in as part of your written comments, by the time it comes to city council, that would be appreciated, because that can have an effect on the zoning.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
And I know there had also been comments about the schools and how that would affect that. And I just wanted to say, the last I had spoken with the president of the school board was saying that he noticed that the school districts were plateauing out and it wasn't a lot of new incoming. Now, I haven't spoken with him since this school year started, but it doesn't seem like that would be something that would be greatly affected. I just heard that comment and wanted to provide some insight concerning that. And concerning the utilities, do you know if that would be done underground? Okay, thank you.
Strasburg? No. Go ahead. No.
Sorry, I'm having technical difficulty pushing the right button there. This is an R3 request from RE to R3. RE being the general, what we gave a property when we annexed it, and or when, no, it is, please clarify.
No, sir. So there's I think what you're thinking of is SD. That's the general when we annex property, what it becomes, which would be probably the largest lot size and really is geared towards agricultural issues. And I would turn to planning to better describe the RE and what's allowed by right now in contrast to the R3 proposed product.
Right. Excuse me. So the R3 currently allows for 6,000 square foot lots with a 60-foot minimum width, whereas opposed to the RE, which is really more of the estate type lots, which are generally those that have a half acre in size and have a minimum lot width of 120 foot.
All right, thank you. What is Southern Trails? If we gave it, it's a PD or a PUD. I get that, a planned unit development or a planned development, but it's underlying zoning and or maybe even the lot sizes right there. What would it be classified had it not been for them being in a PD?
So that zoning or Southern Trails planned development was brought in originally under the Land Use and Urban Development, which has a similar district compatibility with the R3. Those lots along Trinity Rose Lane are generally 60 foot wide.
All right. So, and that's great information for me. That's compatibility. I think all the drainage issues and such, those are engineering issues for me. Those aren't zoning issues. I do understand the significance of them, believe me. But when I'm voting a zone vote, the property adjacent is compatible, more so even than the last case. I do want to make a clarification on the school zone or the school. The question that was given to us about overpopulation of the schools and such. The comments that I've heard were mostly from the Pearland School District. This is Alvin School District. I don't have that information with Alvin. Commissioner Boswell and I are members of the Comprehensive Plan Action Committee. It's the new comp plan, and on that board with us is the superintendent for the new superintendent for Pearland before he got promoted. Now he stayed on there, and then an Alvin representative. Neither one of them have really said that they're overcrowded at this point. Would you confirm that? Okay. So I just wanted to make sure that we did recognize that it is Alvin School District. I guess I'm as long as the city will adhere to the drainage regulations, and as long as we can with comfort say those will be followed, I don't really have a problem with this one going R3. I believe it'll be compatible. I will tell you that the average going price for a new home is about $175 a square foot. At 3,000 square feet, it puts it at a $500,000 home, which to me is compatible with that area. Southern Trails is a beautiful community, absolutely beautiful community. I was there when the developers or the owners walked into the Shadow Creek developer's office and told them they were going to do that, and it wasn't a pleasant conversation. The walls all shook, but Southern Trails put a fine development out there that I think Pearland has been proud of, and anybody that lives there is a proud homeowner. So I'm glad that you all showed up and that you all stated your concerns. It means a lot. And council will be hearing this same zone change, so please, by all means, state your concerns as well there. So that's where I stand.
I think everything I was going to say has been said. We live in Shadow Creek, and my son's in middle school, goes to McNair. went to all of the elementary schools in Shadow Creek because he's in dual language. And what I can say is that they at that point in time did have excess students. However, they have added schools further south, not quite like Jackson has mentioned, but Rodale Palms and down that way. So they are growing south. They're going to have to, because with Pomona and Iowa Colony and on and on and on, it's just going to continue to explode. So there will be more schools coming online, I'm sure, bond elections and whatnot. So I'm not sure that this size of property would add significantly to a large number of students. But every head in a butt in a seat costs money. So you gotta make the schools for them. So that's it. Any more staff comments, commissioners, anything else? All right, I have a motion and a second. It's on the table. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. All right, the next item we have is commission input and discussion of conditional use permit application CUP 22-23. It's a public hearing request by Westside SC Pearland Limited, owner, for approval of a conditional use permit CUP for a gym health club use on approximately 5.044 acres of land within the Neighborhood Services NS District. General location is 5060 to 5070 Broadway Street, Pearland, Texas. This is not a voting item. This is a discussion only.
Chair Dansby, one of the changes that you may have not fully experienced was that we do take votes now.
Oh, I do recall that. Just minor. And Lawrence is. We voice our. We just voice on how we would vote if we were going to vote. Yes.
Until the UDC is changed, I would recommend that you state how you would vote if you were going to vote. Versus I'm taking official action and voting on the item.
All right, so there's no official
Again,
first
Lawrence stated
second.
it much better than I did, but
There's no official first and second. We're just, yeah, okay. So I guess I would open it to staff report for this particular item.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me butt in and interrupt as always. Let me introduce Samin Bazargan to provide the staff report. Samin, take it away.
Thank you, Martin. The next CUP is for a gym or health club at leased space in Neighborhood Service Zone District. The applicant is planning to combine two leased spaces into one. They're located as 5060 and 5070 Broadway Street. The future land use is retail, office, and services. So far, staff has not received any comment or call in favor or against the proposed CUP. The next is this slide shows that the property is located in Neighborhood Service Zone District and is surrounded by residential and commercial zone districts. This is a future land use map that shows the property designation is retail, offices, and services. The subject property is currently developed as a shopping center with tenants and was originally built in 1985. So these are the site plan and floor plan of the proposed CUP. This is the conformity table, and as you can see, the proposed CUP meets all of the criteria as far as comprehensive plan, and also the property is platted and has access to water and sewer. The proposed CUP, as you can see, is also complies with all the conformity criteria, and including preserving the character of adjacent development and also policies of the future and land use plan and comprehensive plan. So staff recommends that the proposed use is consistent with the approval criteria and recommends approval of the proposed CUP. And that completes the staff report. Thank you.
I have one quick question. I would just jump in line here a little bit. Tell me again why a gym and health club is a CUP.
It's a conditional use permit due to the zoning district. This shopping center is unique
Neighborhood service.
because it is zoned neighborhood services.
Okay, just making
Whereas
sure.
most of our shopping centers are in a higher zoning category.
Anyone here wishing to speak for or against?
Applicant presentation, sir.
Yeah, applicant presentation. If you wouldn't mind stepping to the microphone and just, announce and give us your name and address.
My name is Doug Keeney. I'll be the general contractor if we move forward with that. I live in Cypress, 19703 Arbor's Edge Court. It's they're calling it a gym, but it's more of a rehabilitation type center. It'll be nice. If you want a little bit of history, if any of you guys know about Code Ninja, it's the same owner that built about 700 Code Ninjas across the country and in Europe too. So his next thing is he's gonna try to put a bunch of these gyms up, they call it a fitness center or a fitness and recovery center actually. There'll be some small rooms with massage, not massage beds, but like an ice bed. There'll be some small compact saunas inside rooms. So kind of a new concept. It's all electronic, all phone app activated. It's a pretty nice, pretty modern gym. So, and this will actually be our first one. We've got one getting ready to start in Conroe, but their home base is right here in Pearland, so that would be their flagship store.
All right. Commissioners, staff.
And again, I would say that it's a public hearing, and even though you and I can look in the crowd and see that there's not any public there, when somebody goes to review the tape in the future, they might say, did he ask for anybody to speak?
I'm not seeing anyone, but I'm going to ask anyone. Is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against this item? Yeah, when you say you did that, you did well. Anyone else? Seeing none, hearing none. All right. I'm trying to get to staff and commissioners eventually. So anyone else have any other questions or comments?
Years ago, when Emma's was on the opposite corner, when they came to the city and we needed to do, I think it was a CUP, and we granted that CUP, and then they came back because they wanted a little outdoor area that was close to McLean Road there, and we granted it. And that at that point, I stated, gee, this is an NS, and we shouldn't be in a position where we are having to dictate, the users of this shopping center any more so than any of the other ones in town that have residents close to them that are GB. So I thought this had been cleaned up years ago, and I'm sadly mistaken if it's NS still. I certainly wish the owners of this entire building would come back and get it zoned GB, so you don't have to go through this issue, and he or she doesn't have to go through this issue when he needs a new tenant, because the time drags on and you lose that marketability. So that being said, I have no issues at all. Welcome to the community, and I'll be voting for it.
Is that your official? If you were going to vote, you would vote?
Yes. Well, of course, that's what I meant.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Commissioner Hendricks said if I had to vote, I'd vote for it.
Commissioner Isenberg, if I had a vote, I'd vote for it.
Commissioner Boswell, if I had to vote, I'd vote in favor for it.
Commissioner Dansby, I would vote for it as well if I had a vote. Since we don't, it's unofficially 5-0. All right. Good luck to you, sir. Sure.
Just for my own knowledge moving forward, so does this mean that we're going to move forward, or will we get some kind of official notice? Or I'm sorry, I'm brand new to all this.
No, that's okay. Mr. Griggs will help you out there. Yeah. All right. Commissioner's activity report. Anyone have any commissioner activity? Only thing I'd say is that we do have a business after hours at a local bank in the area. In case anyone, there should be a flyer on your table. Staff and commissioners are all invited, please. Next P&Z regular meeting is November 7th at the City Hall Annex, Houston Conference Room. So is that still correct?
That location may change. So there's another city council meeting, the regular meeting that evening. So I will be in contact with y'all.
Okay.
We can't use PEDC because they currently have an event going on that day. So
These people. Okay. Well, I'm sure you'll let us know. Does anyone, depending on location, know at this time if they will not be attending on the 7th? Okay. It looks like unofficially we're all going to be there if we were taking a vote. All right. I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 8:26. Everybody have a nice evening.